All right, Snow White and the Seven Deadly Sins. Anyway, so I just watched. No, actually, I watched a few days ago. I watched Snow White, the new one that came out 2025. Sorry if you hear a lot of shaking. There's an argument going on in my group chat, and so yeah, you might hear some shaking. But anyway, okay, so Snow White. I guess I'll start by saying, if I had to rate it out of 10, what would I? Okay, maybe I'll give it a 4 or 5, maybe a 5. I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the movie. There were some little things here and there, but overall, I really did enjoy the movie. I thought it was good. So I guess a backstory real quick. I've never actually seen the original cartoon, just bits and pieces, just parts, but never like. And if I have seen it consecutively all the way through, I don't remember, but I remember I remember parts and chunks and pieces of the movies. But I'm pretty sure I have seen it though, just not just don't remember it. So I had no interest in actually seeing this movie. I wasn't going to see it. I remember, and I don't know what I for some reason I cannot remember the actress's name who played Snow White. Um, I keep forgetting her name, and I've seen it so many times. I think it's Rachel something, but or is it Zoe? I don't know. But anyway, uh, so yeah, I never seen it, but I know that the main actress who played Snow White, she had some things to say about the movie, and she mentioned, "Oh, the prince isn't going to save the princess in this movie," and some people were upset about that, and then she's also talking about how the seven dwarves weren't going to be in the movie, and so there was a lot of controversy, a lot of stuff going on with the production of the movie and everything, and I know there was just a lot of problems lately throughout the years, or during production. So the movie came out, and I guess I was. Oh yeah, so the movie came out, and I was going through some stuff, and I don't know, something just I just said watch that movie, watch it, and I was like, what? No, like usually I'll have an instinct to watch a movie at a strange time, and it's not even my type of movie that I would ever want to watch, but something will instinctively tell me, yo, go watch this movie. I'll be like, okay, so then I'll go and I'll watch it, and it'll revolve around something that I need to see, or there's a reason. There's always a reason. There's something happens, when I go. So something told me to go watch this movie, and I was like, I don't want to see Snow White. What? So I went in there and ended up watching it, and went by myself. And luckily, I had the movie theater to myself because last time I went to see Frozen 2 by myself, and there was a bunch of people in there. They were looking at me like, why is there a grown man here, a grown black dude here by himself watching this movie? So I got a lot of weird looks when I went to see Frozen 2. So this time I was the only one in the theater, and I was very happy about that. So went in there, talked to the manager, the staff, and he was saying a little bit about the movie, and he wouldn't tell me too much. I was like, okay. So he told me where to go. Went in there, got my popcorn bucket, a little metal or tin, whatever, popcorn bucket of Snow White, and I got the cup that has like the diamonds in it and has a little the mirror reflection. So it was nice. It was a pretty nice cup. I like drinking out of it. Um, and the tin holds a pretty decent amount of popcorn, at least for one person. So yeah, I got in case anyone wanted to know that. So I got my stuff, went in there, sat down, watched the previews, and the movie started. And so now I'm going to start with what I didn't like about the movie before I get into what I did, all the other stuff. I liked it up until the point when the actress who played Snow White started to sing. It was the second song of the movie. She was saying something about, I can't remember the lyrics exactly, but she said something about what kind of girl was she going to be or something like that, or how she was like, is she bound to be the person that, people tell her to be, and she doesn't want to be that way and everything like that. And that just stuck out to me because I'm like, but wait a minute, she's a princess. Everybody like wanted Snow White. Like no one confound her to anything. Like, what does she mean? Am I bound for who they say they want me to be? It just felt like a very forced self insertion because the lyrics that she was saying didn't even fit the character or didn't fit what was going on in the movie. And as a writer, and that like when you are telling a story, um, a writer or director or whatever, when you're telling a story, you have to be very careful about how you portray a message across. You can't force it. Oh, sorry about that. That my battery was dead. It was okay. It's this new update. Okay. Anyway, you can't force a message into your art or your movies like that. You just can't do it. It really does take you out of the movies when the character will say something or do something that has nothing to do with the actual movie. Like back in the day with like Scary Movie or Scary Movie 2 or something, you can get away with doing stuff like you can get away with it every now and then. But you just gotta just be careful about how you do that. When you put stuff in the story. So that second song bothered me. What also bothered me was the scene when the seven dwarves were in here, but it was weird because the areas where the seven dwarves were in, it felt as if they were rewritten to be put in the movie. Now, I'm not saying that in a bad thing, but as I was watching it, there was just an awkward transitioning for what I noticed about the dwarves. Now I know the dwarves were in the original one, I know that, but like it was just strange because like the tone had such a drastic just fluctuation. I don't know. That's just something that I noticed personally. It's not that I didn't like it or anything. I'm just saying that that's something that I felt that I noticed is that a lot of the scenes with the dwarves felt like they were reshoots and then kind of put in between scenes to balance it out. It's kind of what it felt like, or the script was rewritten. But that was fine. But what I didn't like was in the scene where Sneezy ends up sneezing, and the actress who played Snow White said Gesundheit. Now, I understand that there is a controversy between someone sneezing and someone saying, "Oh, bless you," but it was just her body language and how she said it. It was as if the actress playing Snow White was completely out of character when she said Gesundheit. It looked like she had a lot of arrogance in her face when she said that. And I've noticed that a couple times throughout the movie that it felt like the actress was self inserting herself or self inserting what she wanted to in certain scenes. And it made it a little bit uncomfortable to watch at times. That's just what I noticed. I didn't know too much about her, other than a few comments that she said before about, oh, the prince isn't gonna come save the princess or anything like that. But I saw that there was a lot of like arrogance in some of the scenes, and I'm like, okay, she's doing a good job as Snow White in the beginning of the movie, but then it's like she just started to change. The actress started to change, and sometimes it didn't feel like she was acting. It just felt like she was just kind of like inserting. So it was that bless you scene, but then later on, um, someone told me, the manager, after I watched the movie, the manager told me, oh yeah, she was got in trouble because she was saying some anti-religious stuff online. I was like, that would make sense why I picked that up in that scene. Yeah, because he was telling me about the actress after I watched the movie. The manager was, and then I was saying, okay, I see what he's saying now, and I noticed some things in that movie. So everything that the manager was telling me, he was telling me before I told him about any of the scenes. He was telling me about who she was. And then I was like, okay, so I noticed this, I noticed this. So everything he was saying was clicking. So I did notice that. So the actress was a bit of a issue in watching the movie, for me personally. um, so that's what I didn't like. Gail Gadot's. Oh wait, let me also say what I didn't like about it was uh, the bandit scene. There was a scene in the middle of the movie where there was like these bandits or these kids that were with the prince, or not the prince, the dude that her Prince Charming, or the dude that kisses her and everything, that she falls in love with, her one true love. He has like a group of bandits, and they end up having this fight with the guards and all this stuff. And for some reason, that entire middle section of the movie completely threw me off. I was enjoying the beginning, and then that part happened with her and the guard, with Snow White and the guard, and she fell in the trees, and then she found the dwarves, and it was like, okay. And then there was this entire middle section of the movie that just felt dull, and it felt awkward, and it completely took me out of the movie, and it felt like it was out of place, and the pacing was weird, and I completely felt like the momentum of the movie that I was watching was interrupted. And at that point, when the middle of the movie took me out toward the end, after the bandit part, they did their song and they were singing. I guess they found love during the song. Like right after that scene, then the movie had to like kind of hook me back in. And Gal Gadot's character is really what hooked me back in for the most part. And I wish that she was in the movie more. Um, I liked her lines. I like what she said. There was a few little awkward, parts here and there, but I'm not gonna make fun of her or anything like that. It was what it was, and I enjoyed her. I enjoyed her character. Um, but she really saved it for me when it got toward the third act of the movie, or toward the end. Um, there was also another scene during the bandit sequence when Snow White was talking to her one true love, and he said, so I don't remember exactly who said what, but they were like hiding behind these rocks or something, and Snow White was like, "Oh, that's a good compliment coming from someone like you, or someone of your status, or a criminal, something like that." And it just felt it felt like she was if I felt a very sexist tension because of him being a man, and it felt as though she was projecting her dislike of the male energy in that movie. It felt like she was, you know, uh, expressing it in that moment when she said that. That's a compliment coming from someone like you, or someone of your status, or a criminal, something like that. But if you ever watch the scene, then you'll know what I'm talking about. Um, uh, I know there were a few other scenes that I didn't like, but I think another one was one of the dwarves, the main one. Can't remember his name right now, unfortunately. Was it Pete? Anyway, he gave like this little mini speech about something, and I think that was like the writers of the movie actually like um trying to like tell the audience, hey, there's something going on. I think that was like a subliminal little message that the writers slipped in, uh, when yeah, the dwarves were talking, in the main dwarf, the head dwarf. He had this little tiny little speech that he said really really fast. But if you actually listen to it, then you'd be like, okay, there was some fourth wall breaking there. But anyway, and also Dopey talking, that felt awkward. That was strange. I get that felt strange. I'm not even gonna try and justify that, even if I try to, even if I wanted to, even if I could. It was awkward watching that. But anyway, I guess they wanted to. Yeah, yeah. All right, so I think that's all I could say about what I didn't like about the movie. You know, there's a few things here and there. I loved, I really liked that the guard, I liked Gail Gadot. I loved how she was like, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the fairest of them all, and all that. And, the mirror told her, or who was the prettiest of them all, or something like that. And the mirror told her, oh, Snow White. And, Gal Gadot was like, "What? No." And like 2 scenes later, she goes up to the guard. She's like, "Guard." He's like, "What?" And she's like, "Snow White, I want you to take her out to the forest, take her out apple picking, and then just kill her." And then I just like busted out laughing. I was like, "Yeah, this woman is just pure evil. She didn't even waste any time. She was like, take her out there and just kill her. Be done, be done with it." So I just laughed. I was the only one in the theater, so I just busted out laughing. I was like, it's been a while since I've heard the genuine sound of my own laughter. So, I also had to actually mentally prepare myself for a musical because I didn't know it was a musical. So I had to mentally prepare myself. I was like, oh man, I gotta mentally get there. And then, yeah. So, singing was okay, by the way, too. Um, let's see. So I liked yeah. So I liked Gal Gadot. I loved her performance. I loved her villainness. The dialogue was a little awkward, not just in how she delivered it, but how it was written. But I get it. That it's yeah, I get it. It's difficult sometimes. With certain writing certain dialogue. Um, I liked the guard that had to go out there and kill Snow White. I really loved it when she was picking the apples and she was like, "Oh, hey, would you like one?" And he looked down at it and he looked up at her and then he walked away. And I thought that was interesting because symbolically you could look at that scene and say, "Oh, Snow White obviously is a very powerful, is a strong message about um the transparency of God and the devil and temptation, and the dwarves representing the seven sins, and how true love actually goes against the curses of the devil and everything like that. Like, I think it's safe to say that, yeah, that's what Snow White has always been about, even since the cartoon. So, I did like that they did keep those symbols alive very much in this movie. Um, so that's the scene. She offers him the apple and she's like, "Hey, here's the apple," and he doesn't take it and he walks off. And I like the symbolism of that because most people would think, oh, maybe her offering him the apple was her offering him, like, purity, and she gives it to him and he'll take the apple, and it was symbolic of him taking her kindness and being changed by her kind gesture. And the fact that he didn't do it actually said a lot, which was him rejecting temptation. And I really loved that because it wasn't so much as be a slave to this force, and what the force may mean. It's more of a, he was just more like he didn't fall into temptation and he walked away as a form of self-reflectance and understood what he wanted to do, and he himself had to make the choice of if he was going to go through with this or not going to go through with this. And I really admired that within the guard, within that character. And that, I thought that was a pretty strong message. So he said no and he walked away and he rejected her temptation, or he rejected the gesture, and he found the kindness and the honesty within himself as a character, and told Snow White what he's told her, and then sent her off. um I did like I did notice some other symbolisms of Snow White being talking with the her one true love, and the queen was like, "Hey, this dude is stealing. Send him, strip him, and put him on the gate so he can freeze." And Snow White later goes to the gate and frees him, and then he gets off the gate, and then they start talking, and she's like, "What is it like out there?" And he tells her, I think he says, "Come and find out," or something like that. Um, but I did like how there was these bars as like these internalized jail cells, or these emotional jail cells that were keeping these two apart. And so I loved how visually you could see that. Visually, you could see where these characters were at emotionally, by them talking through the other sides of the fence. Um, and so, she does say, "What's it like out there in like the free world?" Because she's imprisoned herself, prisoned within her own emotions, and she has so much going on inside of her, and she doesn't really know how to let it all out, and she doesn't know how to be the person she wants to be, or be the girl that she wants to be, and everything. So, and she finds this character who is free loving, and he's happy. He does whatever he wants to, and and it's life. He has life in him. And she was like, "What is that like, to feel life, to feel freedom, to feel joy, to feel you know so I did like the symbolisms there. And then she goes out and she picks the trees and the apples and everything. And I like how when the guard tells Snow White to run and everything, and before I change my mind, she goes out there and she runs. And when she does that, she gets swallowed up by the dark trees and everything. And it be like that when you are imprisoned and life is so bleak. Life was happy at the beginning of the movie, and then it turned bleak, and the filters went dark. And we got those Zack Snyder filters, those dark filters, which I love. That it gives that winter internalized cold type vibe. And so I really liked the filters that they used for the cameras for that, to give that vibe off. And it was just cold and dark, and she was just trying to find some sense of positivity. And the queen was like, "No, you're not allowed to do that. No, no, no." And so every time Snow White tried to do something, the queen was like, "No," and everything. So eventually, at some point, Snow White had the courage to kind of let herself be a little free, or to find herself. And as she did that, then she falls into the dark forest, and there's all this scary, crazy stuff that she's falling into, and all these things, terrifying things are happening with her. And then she falls, and then there's this deer, I believe, and then um, I believe it was a deer, and then she like offers the deer something, some gesture of love and kindness, and that love was accepted by the deer. I'm trying to remember exactly how it was. And then after that, the darkness around her, the dark forest, changed, and then it wasn't a scary place anymore. It was more of she's in a lost forest, or she's in limbo right now. And now she's in a place of darkness where she has to learn how to re-find herself and find who she really is. And so all the animals, they flock to her. They're like, "Oh, Snow White," and everything, because a little bit of light, a little bit of love can really go a very long way in the world. And that means a lot. And one of the messages of this movie that Mark Webb, the director, was trying to convey was how a little bit of love can really go a long way. And sorry, this might get loud. Okay, sorry about that. How they can really go a long way, and a lot of women have this gift, this very powerful gift of influencing and changing the world in such an amazing, beautiful way. Modern day life is not really, I don't want to say acceptance, but they're not too fond of that concept or that idea. And so they tried to push this whole agenda of um strength, and all of that is really what men have, and women don't have that. So they try to push this agenda of, women can be strong too, women can do this too, women can do that too. Same thing that men can do, women can do that too. And it's like they've created this narrative where they want women to think that to be strong, to be accepted, to have a sense of good equality, you have to do all these things that men do. And it's like, don't do that. Because every strength that a man has, there is a consequence to it. And women are not prepared. They're not built to handle the consequences of a world of what men have to endure every single day. They it just doesn't work that way. And you don't, and if you say, oh, I'm tough enough, it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Trust me. Don't think that you're tough enough to just deal with a man's world. Don't do it. So this was a big narrative that's being pushed. Snow White actually goes against that narrative. And Snow White does promote this whole idea, this sense that women have this strong ability to influence, which they do. And the other side has really tried to tell women that it's all about materialism, it's all about the way you look, it's all about the beauty of things. And you know that is how you influence the world. And a bigger theme of this movie was the divine female, the divine the loving side of women, and how the loving side of women can actually heal the world, versus the queen of this movie, who has the same ability of influence that women have, and but she uses it to cause tyranny, and she causes it to use to start oppression, and she uses it to, cause conflict and cause people, especially men, to lose themselves, to turn against their families, to turn against their loved ones, to create these temptations to make people lose themselves, to make people feel like they're unworthy, to make people feel like they've lost their sense of power, to to just influence to where people forget who they are and what they're capable of, to stop people from finding their internalized power, you know and it was a battle of that, where there is a ability that women have, with the queen and Snow White. And so this movie does talk about, in a sense, does convey that message of how women have the ability to become both, how women have the ability of the queen, and they also have the ability of Snow White. But you have to but the issue, in real life, is that people don't cherish, or they don't value the ability of love, or the gift of love, or what love can really do. So, you know, toward the end of this movie, Snow White does give her speech about that, about, hey, you used to be like this. You used to be a farmer. You had a whole family. You had bread, and we would always go do this. And, there was this girl, and, you know, um, Snow White knew what ability she had, and as what power she had as a girl and as a woman, and she got this little reef, or this it was this, I want to say a reef, but I know it's not. It was like a crown that has some plants on it, some leaves and flowers on top of it, and I completely forgot what the symbolism of that meant. But what those are called and how they're made. But she gave that. She was a princess, and then she found another girl, and then she gave her that. The girl put it on. And she was like, "Oh, you're a queen too. You're a princess too." And it's like, yeah, this amazing ability that girls and women have. It's something that they all have, and Snow White really brought that out in this girl when she gave her that crown, and really made her feel like, hey, this love that I'm giving you is a love that exists within you. And it's important that you let that out, that you let yourself feel that you let yourself embody that, because you have an amazing thing to offer, which is this amazing feeling. And now, unfortunately, the reason why I say that people have to learn to value love is because I have seen a lot when that loving side of women has been cherished, has been, hey, you have this gift, we're going to honor this about you. And I have seen it multiple times being honored. I've heard about it, I've read about it, I've seen it. And when women don't appreciate that ability or that gift, then they feel like they become a victim to it. And then I've also seen women flip out about it and say, hey, there's more to me. There's more to me than just love. There's more to me than just what I can offer. There's more to me than just this whole light or what I can do for other people or this, people always expect me to do this and expect me to do that. And it's like, when you do honor the amazing gift that women can do to heal the entire world, a lot of women feel like they're a victim to that or that they're bound to it. And then they begin to hate it. And then they turn their back on it. But then that's when they become the witch. And it's like, but then that comes with the whole idea, which is with great power comes great responsibility. And of course, with great responsibility comes with great sacrifice. And these are things that we all do as human beings. It's not just that, it's not just something that a lot of women have to bear. It's something that we all have to bear. It just men just complain about it less. um, or people just don't care to listen, but we're not talking about men. But we just complain about it less because we know it's just the reality and there's other important things that we have to do rather than what people think about us, what people think about how we feel, or things like that. We don't always have time for that. Whenever we try to express how we feel, or men express how they feel, it's never a good thing. So this movie does have that energy. I'm not trying to self-insert myself. I'm trying to stick to the point, stick to the energy of the movie, stick to what the movie's about. Stick to the vision of the director, the vision of the writers. So, I'm not going off on a tangent or anything. Um, I usually do movie reviews and subliminal messages. This is like two in one, basically. So, so yeah, this movie was very heavy in those messages of the materialism versus the spiritual versus the love and all that. And so yeah, you have the seven dwarves, and you know, each dwarf represents the seven deadly sins, and of course, Snow White has to learn to overcome all that, go through all of that, and everything. And she really did honor her ability, her gift as a girl, and what she's capable of doing. And it's yeah. So that happened, and let me see. Yeah, there was the kiss. So the doors were in there. The kiss scene. Yeah, the one true love scene was in there, and then the ending scene. I guess, the last three things I can say about this movie. Um, Snow White did have to go through when you want to become a powerful influencer in the world. You want to do good things. Then it's important to realize that you are going to have to go through the shadows of your own darkness if you are going to master who you truly are at your core. And a lot of times when the darkness does come to us, we get lost in it. And that's never what we need to do. We always have to strive to become something better. And as Snow White went through the journey to become the woman that she wanted to be, or become the woman that her father saw her to be, then she had to go through the darkness and go through the challenges of embodying the true power that she has within herself. And that was what her journey was about, everything like that. And of course, the kiss at the end. It's very important that you have to submit to what love is. You have to submit to love. And Some people may say, "Oh, that was just the whole victim thing about, oh, a man's gonna come and save her. That's the only way." It wasn't so much about that. It was more of, it was, it's along the lines of, um, duality, but also, the ability to submit to this higher power of love, because any kind of a power that someone has, it is not always them. It's more of who they are is powerful enough to handle the type of power that they need to channel. So when you allow yourself to love, when you allow yourself to feel love, then you borrow the power of love, and then you're able to channel that love toward the people around you that you truly care about. But love is always in you, love is always a part of you. But depending on who you are, is how much potency you have and access you have of that love. But even if you are not here, even if you pass away and you're gone, the force of love still exists on its own and still exists through others. So that's why I say that. So this journey was about, also Snow White going through it, Snow White finding courage, her finding her bravery, uh, but also the ability to submit to the power of love and to accept that love is a power that is beyond me. And until you surrender to it, then you will never truly know what love is or embody love or have the power of it. Um, so that happened. I love that scene. Then she goes out into the town and she displays her bravery, and you know, um, she displays her bravery, and now we get to her facing off with the queen. Now the queen was, she made a deal. Made a deal with the devil. Made a deal, and now the thing about that is when you make a deal with the devil, you'll be granted what you desire. But the moment that you fail in the task that he made you do, then that is when he basically takes away your soul, or he basically takes something from you, takes something of value from you. That's why it's never a good idea to make a deal with the devil. Because if you make a deal with the devil and then you make someone's life miserable, destroy them, make them feel sad every day, make them feel miserable every day. And the moment that they feel better, then what will end up happening is you'll end up like losing a piece of yourself. You'll end up feeling alone. You may feel like, oh, I've had this sense of empowerment my whole life, and I forced it upon this person and made them feel low, made them feel like dirt. And then when they found their strength and they left, you realize, you all of a sudden feel like, wait a minute, I have no power. Wait a minute, I feel empty inside. I feel lonely inside. I feel nothing inside. And whenever you try to project your power, you'll notice it's not there anymore. And you've lost your family. You probably lost your home. You probably lost your money. That's what happens when you make a deal. Now, during this moment, when they're on the bridge and they're doing their thing, Gal, yeah, Gal Gadot's character, the Queen, she creates the rose, the flower, and she tries to convey the message of, oh, look at how fragile flowers are, and they can break easily, and they're so weak. Thing about weak things is, when you look at weak versus strong, you can think of water versus like a structure, or a rock, or maybe a river to a building. And maybe weak could seem like it's water, but water is very nourishing. Water is capable of doing so many things. It's a beautiful thing, but doesn't mean that it's entirely weak. It's just very transparent. And versus a building, once you hit a building or you knock it down, that building's gone. That building crumbles, and it's that's it. It's broken now. Whereas with water, you can't really break water. So being weak versus being strong, it's not a good or bad thing. It's just when you're weak, you're submissive in certain areas, but that also means that you're transformative in those areas as well. Versus once you were strong, you are solidified within a set structure or a set way of being a certain way or looking a certain way or a set way of going about through life. And then once that structure breaks, then you basically are left with nothing. So she tries to talk about how fragile they are, but nature is beautiful. Nature is very fragile. Ecosystems are very fragile. But, once they have that community, they are the most unstoppable thing ever. Like you see a weed in the ground, you can pluck the weed and it's done. But then like wait a while and go into the mountains and you see there's trees everywhere. There's rivers everywhere. There's animals everywhere. There's just life everywhere. And it's like, even if you do manage to try and get a tree, it's going to be nearly impossible. But once you do pick that one tree out, you have the entire ecosystem still there, still standing. You know what I mean? So life isn't just this fragile thing, it's beautiful. It offers so much. It makes life worth living. It makes people smile. It makes people forget about their pain. It makes people not worry about what they don't need to worry about. It makes people feel hopeful. It makes people feel good. And you see all of that when the queen creates the rose, but then she turns the rose black and then transforms it into the diamond. And this is very symbolic of the queen trying to say that the beauty of nature, the beauty of life, the beauty of um, love, and what women can do in the heart of in the heart of people and everything, emotions and internalized world within the human condition, all of that, quality of life, all of that. It doesn't matter because what matters is what is the solidified thing. And then she creates the diamonds, and then she talks about the diamonds and the jewels, and it was the fame that she wanted and the ego boost, and oh, I'm the most beautiful person in the world and I'm the most fairest person of the world. It was just her constantly trying to feed her materialized ego. And in the scene, you can see how she took the rose and she transformed it into the black rose. That shows that anyway, that shows that the witch, Gal Gadot's character, does still have that internalized Snow White inside of her because she was able to create that red rose. That means that she still has a light inside of her to create beauty, but she purposefully chooses the side of darkness, and so she turned it black. She then gives Snow White a dagger, and she turns this symbol of life into a dagger and tries to give it to Snow White. And it's like, if you want the crown, come and take it. Now, when you see all the people around her, the crowd, and they're all witness to this, this was the devil's last ditch effort to try and corrupt Snow White and to corrupt the people. It was to create a new change or a new revelation based on blood and not based on life. It was going to be based on murder and death and not the internalized overcoming of and embodying kindness and fairness and community and courage. It was none of that. So this was a temptation. So Gal Gadot's character is actually being, influenced by, devil energy at this point, and she's trying to tell Snow White, "Go ahead and kill me if you want, because that's the only way you're gonna end. This is gonna end. You gotta do what you gotta do." And if Snow White did that, Snow White would have completely went against who she was as a person, against her character, against her power. Everyone would have witnessed that, and then at that point, the devil would have been able to live on amongst all the villagers based on what was witnessed, and eventually the devil would have grew in the hearts of all the people, and he would have fully possessed everybody, and they wouldn't have even known. They all would have thought that it was their free will, when slowly they were actually being infected by what they saw. So so this was the temptation, and she gave it to Snow White. And in that moment, the devil didn't care about the witch. At that point, the witch basically lost, and the devil was actually going to use the queen, the queen, sorry, the queen, and the devil wanted Snow White to kill the queen because he was done with her. Her influence, her ability was done, and the devil couldn't use her anymore. So now he was going to basically kill her. But killing her, he could also use her death as a way to infect everyone else energetically, mentally, psychologically, emotionally. So that's also why Gal Gadot offered herself as suicide. That's a trick of the devil, also, with everything I just said. Snow White didn't fall for it. She turned away from it. She said no, and then the queen was like, "Kill her, destroy her," and it was her. You know, then the people, the guards, were going to kill her, and then at that point, Snow White was like, "Oh no, I got to find that inner power within me because just because you make the right choice, you have to learn how to find the courage to use your own power, and to use you know what you've learned throughout the journey." So then this was her moment to do that, for her to use her free will to incorporate her gift, her love, and her power into her free will. And how she had to make the choice to stand up and fight. And then she chose. And her way that she fought was to say, "Hey, you remember when you were a fisherman? You remember when you did this? You remember you had a family?" And so when she did that, everyone was starting to remember. And as they remember, they're just like, "Bro, we are good people. We do have this goodness inside of us. And we've lost ourselves, and we lost so much because of what this queen did to us." They all turned against the queen. So the queen went to the mirror, because she didn't have anybody left. She didn't have any of that boasting. She didn't have a crew to follow her or something, anything like that. She was like, "What do I do?" And so the mirror tells her the truth, and everything like that. Why couldn't the mirror, if the mirror is bound to the truth, then why was he unable to detect Snow White earlier in the movie? Is that a plot hole? A lot of times we are capable of doing something, and we are aware that we're capable of doing it, but that doesn't necessarily mean that we are on the track, or it doesn't necessarily mean that we are that person. Just because we know what we're capable of doesn't mean that we are able to access the fullness of what we're capable of. And so, because she wasn't in access of it, Snow White wasn't, then the mirror wasn't able to fully detect it, because we're all capable of doing amazing things, becoming great artists, becoming great writers, becoming great directors. But until we start to go down that path, then what we're capable of doesn't always become true. And a lot of times we get lost because in life we go through life saying, "Oh, I'm a great person," or "I was a great person," or "I wouldn't have never done this," or "I would never have done that," or "Why are things like this? Things shouldn't be like this. Things shouldn't be like that." And it's like, yeah, it's because you are seeing what life is capable of becoming. When you're in a relationship with a person, you are seeing what the relationship is capable of becoming. But doing the actual work to get there is different, and it's sometimes contradictory to the end result of it. You know what I mean? So, the mirror was unable to find it. So now the witch, or the queen, goes up there and she asks the mirror, "Who's the fairest of them all, and who, beauty of all?" And it was like, well, Snow White realized her power, so now that what she knows, or what she knew was inside of her sleeping, now it's awakened. And now that she's aware of it, now that her power exists, now that she has an audience and a witness to her power, then now her power is realized, and that realized power brought it to life. And now the mirror is able to say, "That is truth. Now it's the truth." And also, the witch herself knew the truth. A part of her was partially influenced by the truth. She didn't want to accept it, and she said no. And as she says no, then that was what we call 666 frequency, which is one way or the other. The gamble of 666 is you put someone in a situation where they have an ultimatum, uh, either become better or sink, either do or don't, do or die. And the 666 frequency puts people in a position where there's a gamble of a person's soul, and in this moment, whatever they choose either destroys them or makes them more powerful than who they were prior to be given that choice. In this moment, she failed and she said no. And as she was unable to submit to that power of love, to submit to that truth, then she completely became encased in darkness. And then she broke the mirror and she broke a sacred object. And so her soul was forever lost in a shroud of darkness because she, within her free will, purposely chose to reject the ability of love and light and life and what true beauty was. So that's what happened to the queen. So I enjoyed this movie. I enjoyed the messages. I enjoyed the energy, what I felt from it. And yeah, like I said, 5 out of 10. Okay, here I am, actually about 3 days later, recording the rest of this. A couple of minutes ago, my tone lowered because I had someone come in, and I was unable to record the way I wanted to, so I had to talk kind of low. So I wanted to re-record an ending that I forgot to talk about, and um, in the middle of the movie, Snow White, she was, uh, yeah, she, I guess, I don't know to say happy, but she was who she was. She was more of a suppressed character, and then she questioned if she can be the person that she wanted to be or who she was meant to be or whatever. And then as she went out there, and started to really expose herself or her power or, what she was about, then there was a threat that came her way and someone sent an enemy her way. And when she fell to the dark forest and she, fell from her palace and everything, I just want to say, even on a personal level or maybe on a level that some people may understand, of if you are going through a suppressed situation and you feel um like you're stuck in an abusive situation or something like that, and there's someone there who's not letting you be the way you want to be, and as long as you are quiet and suppressed and do what they do, then everything is fine for the most part, everything. But as soon as you start to show a little bit of happiness or something, then there's always, they say something or they do something to you, or there's a, some kind of consequence. um this as soon as she left to go, you find become the person that she needed to be and find her own strength, then things got pretty bad from her for her. That will happen in life when we want to better ourselves and we go out there. We will lose our foundation, and when we lose our foundation, it is a scary thing, and it may seem like we're being punished just for being the person that we want to be. But I just want to tell you that no, when you leave, when your foundation breaks, it's just because it's rebuilding based on your will and the new version of you that you are becoming. Things may seem like they're getting worse, things may seem like they're worse, things may seem like they're bad, but really you're being tested, and you are growing as you're being tested. You are just learning to overcome more things and find more strength within who you are. Um, if you could think of it like anyway, you're just being tested for who you are. Like, if you think of life or even emotions like a volcano, like before a land or foundation or a new land is formed, it starts off as like lava, basically, as like fire, and then eventually the volcano blows up and the fire is everywhere, and then the fire starts to solidify and it turns into earth eventually. It becomes a new foundation, and then new life is able to grow on that foundation as time goes on. So if you really think of fire being like your will, and the earth being a new foundation from which you can grow more life or more better parts of who you are, then you think about that. You think about the fact that that you think of the fact that the new foundation that you are going to stand on for the rest of your life, and the principles that you're going to have, and the person that you're going to be, and the strength that you are going to stand on within yourself, it's going to originate from the flames of your will. And the flames of your will is going to come through the the overcoming of the dark trials that will come ahead, or that may come ahead. Once you do try to seek your power, when you do try and seek it, then things are going to be scary. I just want to come back and say that. But yeah, this is my review for Snow White. This is what I learned from the movie. This is what I picked up from the movie. This is what I felt the director, the writers, the people involved were. I believe this was the message. This was the message for the movie. This is what I picked up. Um, so yeah. Again, this is everything that I said in this video is what I felt and was going through as I was watching this movie. So yeah, thank you for listening to Movies with Love, and you have a great night.